Good afternoon, everyone. This is day 14 of the Trump Republican shutdown. House Democrats and Senate Democrats remain committed to finding a bipartisan path forward to reopen the government, enact a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people and addresses the Republican health care crisis. The American people know that Republicans have shut the government down because of their unwillingness to provide health care to everyday Americans, working class Americans, and middle class Americans. The Republicans have created a health care crisis that is devastating people all across the country. Working class America, rural America, urban America, small town America, the heartland of America, and black and brown communities all throughout America. That Republican healthcare crisis includes, but is not limited to, the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers closing all throughout the country because of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. The country faces a possible $536 billion cut to Medicare if Congress doesn't act by the end of this year. The Republicans continue to refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which is going to result in tens of millions of Americans experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. All across the country, including, most significantly, in states that Donald Trump won, and Republicans could care less. House Republicans canceled votes 2 weeks ago, canceled votes last week, canceled votes this week. House Republicans are on vacation. House Democrats are on duty here in Washington, D.C., ready to reopen the government, ready to support our troops and hardworking federal civil servants, and ready to address the Republican health care crisis that is crushing people all across the country in an environment where the cost of living is already too high because of failed Republican policies like the Trump tariffs. Questions?
Andrew Jeffries.
Manu?
The government shutdown's going to get worse each and every single day for so many Americans, and we've already seen the standoff persist for some time. Republicans have rejected the Democratic CR that includes all of your demands there. So why not come up with a new approach, put a new offer on the table to try to jumpstart something rather than dig into your position?
We're open to sitting down anytime, any place with anyone in terms of our Republican colleagues, either here at the Capitol,
So why not put a new offer?
either here at the Capitol or back in the Oval Office, to have a conversation about finding a bipartisan path forward. But there has to be a willingness amongst Republicans to actually have a conversation. And since the White House meeting over 2 weeks ago, Republicans have gone radio silent. Donald Trump has spent more time on the golf course than talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill. Republicans have been on vacation since September 19th in the House. And in the Senate, the Republican strategy is to do the same exact thing, bring the same failed partisan Republican spending bill to the floor over and over and over again, knowing it's going to go down. Because Democrats have been very clear. We're not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. We are open about having a good faith discussion with our Republican colleagues to hear their ideas about reopening the government while at the same time decisively addressing the Republican health care crisis.
Leader Jeffries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of the military, it looks like OMB is finding money and appropriating it to pay the military. Do you agree with that strategy? Are you on board with that? And are you interested in ultimately one bill on the House floor to pay the military?
I agree with making sure that our men and women in uniform, our active duty troops, are paid. We also need to make sure that we take care of all of our hardworking federal civil servants, which is why Republicans should be back here in Washington working with us to reopen the government, as opposed to continuing the Trump Republican shutdown.
Leader
Thanks.
Jeffries. Good afternoon, thank you. Republicans have run on repealing and replacing Obamacare since 2010, but you're arguing for these subsidies to help subsidize Obamacare here. Isn't that an indictment that there's a problem with it, the fact that it needs to be propped up in some form?
No, the overwhelming majority of the American people, including in Republican-run states, support an extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits because they know that the Affordable Care Act has been an important part of ensuring that everyday Americans can afford to go see a doctor when they're sick, when their children are sick, and when their families are sick. And from our standpoint, it's strange that Republicans want to make this a partisan fight. This is not a partisan fight as far as Democrats are concerned. This is about the American people and ensuring that the American people can afford high-quality health care when they need it, including in red states. And by the way, the majority of states that benefit in terms of their people getting health care from the Affordable Care Act tax credits are states that Donald Trump won. West Virginia, number 1. Wyoming, number 2. Alaska, number 3. Tennessee, number 4. Mississippi, number 5. And states 6 through 10 are also states that Donald Trump won. This is not a partisan issue for Democrats. We care about making sure the American people can afford health care. Whether you're a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican, we are fighting for hard-working American taxpayers. The Republicans do have a credibility issue when it comes to health care and the Affordable Care Act. And the American people know we're standing on the side of lifting up their quality of life, and Republicans have spent the last 15 years, you are correct, trying to repeal and displace people off the Affordable Care Act. In fact, they've done it more than 70 times, which is why if we're going to resolve this issue, it can't simply be a Republican wing and a prayer. We actually need legislative action that extends the Affordable Care Act tax credits. And by the way, also addresses other aspects of the Republican health care crisis that is crushing the American people. Thanks. Third row, thanks.
The judiciary can only continue its full paid operation through Friday. Do you have any concerns about what will happen with that, criminal and civil cases?
We remain completely and totally concerned by all of the aspects of the Trump Republican shutdown, which is why we need them to abandon their failed my way or the highway approach, their take it or leave it approach, and the Republican go it alone approach. Because if Democratic votes are needed to reopen the government, which is the case, then this has to be a bipartisan discussion to find a bipartisan resolution to reopen the government and address the Republican health care crisis. We are very concerned with all of the implications of this Trump Republican shutdown and how the American people are being hurt. It doesn't seem to me that Republicans are concerned because they remain on vacation and have now canceled votes for the 3rd consecutive week. That's outrageous. Democrats from all across the country will be here in person, meeting in just a few hours and throughout the week because we want to reopen the government. And the question has to be asked, why in the world are House Republicans still on vacation, spread out across the country and the world? It's perplexing. It's shocking. I'm flummoxed by the whole situation. It makes no sense. They're reinforcing the narrative that they could care less about the quality of life of the American people.
Leader Jeffries.
Thanks.
Mr. Leader, I want to ask you about November 1st, which is when open enrollment begins. As you know, and some rates are already being set. There are some who think that's a date by which, at this point, the leverage over the shutdown may not matter as much because the ACA subsidies will be in motion in terms of the rates. How do you feel about that idea?
Well, our view has always been that we have to address the Republican healthcare crisis and the need to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits with the fierce urgency of now, because at this moment in time, notices are going out to people all across the country indicating that their premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to skyrocket. People are about to pay thousands of dollars more per year. And for many hardworking American taxpayers, you're talking about their health insurance rates doubling, tripling, or quadrupling. In the congressional district that Speaker Johnson represents, you're talking about thousands of people in his district who are about to experience a 379% premium increase. How is that acceptable? That's happening right now. One of the reasons why we have to act right now is because of the November 1st open enrollment period. That's just the beginning of the open enrollment period. It'll last until early to mid-December. And so Republicans can try to run away from this problem that they've created by continuing to break our healthcare system, but they will not be able to hide. And that will become increasingly clear, as Marjorie Taylor Greene consistently has pointed out, in the weeks to come.
Leader Jeffries.
Thanks. You got it. Yep. Michael.
You've mentioned several times that you believe Republicans have a House majority due to the North Carolina gerrymander. They announced yesterday that they're going to try to draw Don Davis out of his seat. I want to get your reactions to that. And also, do you believe that Proposition 50 in California is enough to offset everything that Republicans are doing to try to redraw the map ahead of next year? And also, the Supreme Court is hearing the Louisiana redistricting case tomorrow. So I just want to get your thoughts on North Carolina, Prop 50, and the Supreme Court oral arguments tomorrow.
Well, the Supreme Court case tomorrow is going to be incredibly important, and we stand behind the civil rights community in defending the opportunity for people of every race to have an opportunity to elect the candidate or member of Congress of their choice, and to push back against the efforts by some in this country on the other side of the aisle to engage in partisan race-based gerrymandering to undermine the ability of Black, Brown, or Asian communities in the country to be able to select their representative, as opposed to having extremists draw lines so that their representative can be effectively selected for them. We're going to be watching closely that Supreme Court oral argument tomorrow, and I stand behind Representative Cleo Fields, whose district is the subject of the litigation, and we also, of course, stand behind the civil rights community's efforts to preserve both Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act as well as the 14th Amendment protections against racial gerrymandering and undermining the ability of communities of color to elect the candidates of their choice. We're going to win Prop 50 in California, and I'm thankful for the tremendous leadership of the California congressional delegation, the people of California, Governor Newsom, and the coalition of folks who have come behind the effort to push back against what Republicans have maliciously done in Texas in trying to rip 5 seats away from Democrats as part of their effort to gerrymander the maps and rig the midterm elections. We are not going to let Republicans successfully rig the midterm elections. California is just the first Democratic state to respond. It will not be the last. We've got to win Prop 50. We will. And we're making the point simply as we communicate with the people of California, yes, on Prop 50 to stop Trump from stealing the election. And the Republicans know they're on the verge of losing Prop 50. That is just the beginning of the Democratic response. And we will respond forcefully across the country. Now, you are correct about North Carolina, and it's important for everybody to understand. This whole notion that we're in the midst of a Republican wave, a sea change politically, notwithstanding what happened in a bitterly disappointing election in November of 2024. But the notion of that myth that Republicans have tried to perpetrate is belied by the fact that Republicans currently have the narrowest majority of any party since the Great Depression. The narrowest majority since 1931, as I understand it. A 3-seat majority. Once Rep-elect Adelita Grijalva is sworn in, that should be happening today, by the way. But they're running scared because of their efforts to continue to hide the Epstein files from the American people. But Republicans have a 3-seat majority. They wouldn't even have their 3-seat majority. They wouldn't even be in the majority right now had North Carolina not already engaged in mid-decade partisan gerrymandering last year. Because we know North Carolina is a 50-50 state, has a Democratic governor, Democratic lieutenant governor, Democratic attorney general, Democrat just won a close state Supreme Court race, all on the same day that Donald Trump narrowly won in November of 2024. And in North Carolina, before they engaged in vicious mid-decade gerrymandering to affect this Congress, in this 50-50 state, the North Carolina delegation, 14 members, was 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans. They then ripped 3 seats away from the people of North Carolina last year. And on January 3rd of this year, changed the delegation to 10 Republicans and 4 Democrats. That's their majority right now. They didn't even legitimately win in an election where everything at the top of the ticket was breaking for them. And they had to rely on stealing 3 seats from the people of North Carolina to artificially create their majority right now. This is why you can't take these people seriously in terms of any policy high ground in the House that they may claim to have. It's non-existent. So the question then becomes, they've already gerrymandered the map in North Carolina. And because Donald Trump, their boss, ordered them to go back and try to create an additional seat, this is what they're going to try to do. We're going to make sure that Representative Don Davis is reelected in North Carolina, and Democrats are going to take back control of the House of Representatives.
Leader Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Are you aware of any plans to try to pay federal law enforcement? And in particular, do you think something should be done to help U.S. Capitol Police? I know their union just put out a statement. They haven't gotten paid since Friday. And are you concerned that could impact the safety here at the Capitol?
Something should be done to stand by the U.S. Capitol Police. We're so thankful for their bravery and patriotism, service and sacrifice, and of course, should be done for law enforcement, as is the case for all federal civil servants, which is why Republicans need to get back into town and show up at the negotiating table so we can reopen the government, negotiate a bipartisan spending agreement that actually improves the lives of the American people, as opposed to what Republicans want to do, which is to get Democrats to sign off on their partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. It's not going to happen. We need to address the Republican health care crisis. We've made that clear repeatedly now for weeks, and that position is not going to change.
Leader Jeffries.
Back in March, and even a little bit coming into this government funding deadline, there was a lot of concern among Democrats that if the government was shut down, that it would empower and give Trump the ability to run around Congress and do what he wants with government funding. Is what he is doing now exactly troop pay and finding money to pay for WIC, other things, exacerbating Trump's ability to go around Congress?
In previous shutdowns, funding has always been identified to make sure that the Women's, Infants, and Children program has been funded. And we expect that that should happen during this moment in time as well. In terms of the mass firings, the violations of the law, the bullying of hardworking federal employees, that's been going on since January 20th, the first day of this presidency. The focus of the Trump administration has been on visiting chaos and confusion and cruelty on the American people, as opposed to doing what Donald Trump and Republicans promised on day one, which is to lower costs. But costs aren't going down in the United States of America. Costs are going up. Inflation is up. Electricity bills are up. Housing costs are up. Grocery costs are up. And now Republicans refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which is going to skyrocket health care premiums, copays, and deductible. Everything we're seeing right now in the midst of this Trump Republican shutdown is consistent with their failed policies that haven't made life more affordable for the American people. Republicans continue to make life more expensive. And Democrats are working hard to fix our broken health care system because of the crisis Republicans have created and to lower the high cost of living. Devin?
You've alluded to and hit at this throughout the press conference about the pain that is going to be felt by federal workers, et cetera, over the coming weeks if this drags on. Which pain, as you're navigating the path forward here, is greater in your view? Is it the pain that is going to be felt by federal workers and people that depend on the federal government for services? Or is it the prospect of skyrocketing insurance premiums? And is there a point where the shutdown pain becomes too great that it's not tolerable anymore for Democrats to hold this position?
The pain of a government shutdown is being felt by all Americans, and it's unfortunate that Donald Trump and Republicans have decided to shut the government down and then not to do a damn thing to find a bipartisan path forward. Not a thing over the last 2 weeks. I mean, Donald Trump literally has spent more time on the golf course than talking to Democrats. He spent more time creating deepfake videos than talking to Democrats. House Republicans have chosen to cancel votes now for 3 consecutive weeks. This is their behavior. These are facts. No one disputes these things. And as Democrats, Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats who courageously continue to hold the line, partnering with House Democrats, have made clear, we will sit down with anyone, anytime, any place to reopen the government and find a bipartisan path forward. But at the same time, we have to address the healthcare crisis that is breaking hardworking American taxpayers throughout the country. And the American people know it. This is not a manufactured healthcare crisis. It's real. And it's been visited upon the American people by Donald Trump and the Republican Party.
Leader Jeffries.
Thank you.
The President and the White House have confirmed now 4,000 firings across the federal government. As Kevin noted, that's something that Democrats previously said they were concerned about. If there was a government shutdown, the President would go through with this. Is there a way that Democrat strategy here has opened the door for the President to go about these firings?
Donald Trump and his administration have been engaging in mass firings since day one of his presidency. For the Republicans, cruelty is the point. And the fact that they are celebrating, meaning the extremists, the extreme MAGA Republicans, the fact that they're celebrating firing hardworking federal employees doesn't strengthen their position with the American people. It weakens it because the American people don't accept that kind of cruel and callous behavior and know that any responsible group of people would actually be standing up to support our hardworking federal employees. and trying to actually find a bipartisan path forward to reopening the government, which is what Republicans refuse to do. In the face of a growing healthcare crisis, open enrollment on November 1st, premiums, copays, and deductibles about to skyrocket, and the fact that Republicans have already enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history as part of their one big ugly bill so they could reward their billionaire donors with permanent tax breaks. Well, at the same period of time, refuse to consider a multi-year extension of the Affordable Care Act or a permanent extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Democrats are fighting for everyday Americans. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.